Hi everyone, and welcome to another part of the Solidity tutorials. In this part we're going to create a contract for creating ERC20 token. So as you can remember, we had this contract related to the simple token right over here, and we defined a very simple token with the minimal conditions and transfer function, and that was it. But right now we're going to create a much more complete kind of token, which is ERC20 token, and it's a kind of a standard we use in Ethereum network and Ethereum tokens. So here we're going to see how we can create a custom kind of ERC20 token. Later in the future, we're also going to learn how we can customize that kind of token and also add some other conditions to, for example, make it a stable coin and so on. So with that said, let's get started. Just as always, let's create a new file, and I'm gonna call this ERC20.sol. Notice that you can create ERC20 token by using OpenZeppelin library, which we're also going to teach that in the future tutorials. But right now we're going to see what an ERC20 token actually is and how it works, what is the smart contract, and then later in the future we can get the library, we can import it and use it and create factory of the token without ever needing to write the contract of ERC20 token. So right now, just as always, we need the first two lines. We just need to copy and paste it without needing to write it down. So right over here we can create the contract ERC20 token. So now let's open the bracket, and now we're going to define some state variables. So the first one is a string public name, the name of the token, and then a string public symbol, string public symbol. Then we'll have uint public decimals, so, and we'll have uint 256 public total supply, uint 256 public total supply, and also we've got two mappings. The first one is the mapping from the address to the balance of. So we'll get this mapping maps the addresses to the balances of those addresses. So there we go, address and uint 256. So, and then public balance of, and another mapping for address. So again, uint 256 public public. So this is allowance, and I'm gonna explain what allowance is. Actually, on the ERC20 tokens, we don't have just transferred, but we have another kind of process which is called transfer from instead of transfer to, meaning that the person who holds the token gives allowance to some other third party in order to expend a specific amount of tokens, and that is called the allowance. And allowance is different from the balance. So the holder of the token might have, for example, 1000 token, while giving the allowance of 10 of those tokens to some other address. So when we want to transfer the money as a holder, we transfer it ourselves, but when we want to give the allowance to some other kind of address, that address is the one who transfers the token instead of us. So that is generally the allowance, but we're going to get familiar with the process and the events and also the functions that needs to be written in order to make this allowance happen. So we will have two events, the transfer and the approval. Approval is related to this allowance and transfer from, and transfer is for the normal kinds of transfer which we had in our simple contract of the token. So transfer, and also notice that an ERC20 token could be much more complex. You can add even more functions and events, but the one that we're writing right over here is just a very simple and minimalistic kind of ERC20 contract. And the purpose of it is to get familiar with it so that later in the future we can write more complex ones. So even this contract is not a sophisticated one for creating the token contract, but this could suffice for creating an ERC20 contract. So address index from, address indexed to, and uint value is for the event related to the transfer, uint 256 value, and that's it. And another event for the approval. So approval, again we will have address indexed, but this is owner, address indexed owner, address index spender. A spender is the person who has been given the allowance to spend the money, and by the way, indexed spender, and uint 256 value, and there we go. So that's it for the events, and then we'll create a constructor containing some variables that we'll get from the user. So now constructor here, and it contains some variables, string memory name, string memory underline name, because we'll get from the user, comma, a string memory symbol, and then uint 8 decimals. And if you do not know what decimals is, I will explain later, so don't worry. But generally decimals is the number of zeros that we use for the tokens. So for example, some of the tokens have 18 decimals, some of them have less decimals, such as for example 8 or 5. So I will explain what is the use of this decimal. So uint 256 to total supply. So that's it. And then we can open the brackets here, and so define some variables, name, or actually change the variables. So name equals to name that we get from the user, symbol equals to symbol that we get from the user, and then decimals that we get from the user, and also tools. This is true about tool supply equals to total supply get from the user, and then the balance of the message sender equals to total supply. So the person who creates the contract balance of the msg.sender total supply. And so that's it. So it's time to create and actually define the function here. The function is related to transferring, and we've got a couple of other functions, approve and transfer from. So we will explain these two, write these two and explain them in the next part of the video. And until the next one, goodbye.